it gives me that insufficient thing. And I'm just like, I don't believe you. You're like the boy who cried wolf. It is not true. So, here we are.
Yay.
I think we're live.
Okay.
I'm going to go with I think we're live.
Thumbs up.
And both of our partners are out and about doing stuff, and so we're not sure if we're live, but I think we're live. At very least, we're recording.
Excellent.
Yeah, recording in progress, right?
Good. Always good to be sure with that. You know, Mercury retrograde and all.
Mercury retrograde, and it is retrograding the crap out of us.
It's been fun.
Oh yeah, that's what I call that. Yesterday when we spent 3 hours trying to get the tech set up, and nothing worked, and then it would work, and then it wouldn't work, and we'd go on to something else, and another thing that we had fixed broke. Whack-a-mole.
Yes.
That was a good time.
But here we are.
Maybe we could do that again sometime. Never. That would be great. Hi.
Different experience. Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
We're live, and I think I'm obliged by law to say welcome to the Evolutionary. My name is David Knox. I'm still your host, and I'm very excited to have you on the show, Marije.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Yes, cool. Super fun.
Yeah, this is why we do this, is so that we get a chance to have conversations, the types of conversations that we have normally in private, and kind of air them out a little bit, because there's some fun stuff that comes up. And also I get to ask you some questions that I don't normally. So
yeah, cool. Yeah.
So I'm going to read your bio right now, just so people know who they're dealing with. Wow. Marije Miller helps people have the career and life they love by connecting with their uniqueness so they can bring their dream into being. Whether that is a healing practice, a new business, or something else that is specifically true for them and their heart's direction, all while experiencing more flow and synchronicity. Marije is a professional certified coach, human design master professional consultant and trainer, board certified coach, and certified HeartMath master trainer and coach with over 20 years of experience. She is the creator of the Gates to Soul Wisdom Oracle cards, with her signature programs Human Design in 30 Days and Human Design for the Soulpreneur, S-O-U-L, and methods like the HeartMath System. Marije works with people all over the world who want to live a more vibrant and easeful life. And I am so happy to have you on the show. And I can say from knowing you for years that you bring a lot of wisdom and practical stuff through that we can use in our lives to make them better. So thanks for that.
Thank you. And you too. So I'm really excited to be here with you.
Right on. Okay. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to start with a word. We're going to take a moment of silence for our good friend and chosen family, really, Nadi Hana, who has physically fallen but has ascended spiritually, and we know that she's here with us in the room. She was effing with our tech yesterday. I know that she's been with us on our travels because I see hawks everywhere now, and I don't try to. They just show up, the way it does when we're talking about synchronicity. So I would like to just take a moment and have a breath together for Nadi. We love you, Nadi.
Love you.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful soul.
Vibrant being. Okay, so what we're going to do now, and Nadi would love this section because this is something that we talked about and sometimes quarreled about a little bit, not viciously, but good news and fresh perspectives. Mm-hmm. Reasons for intelligent people to have hope for the direction of humanity is really what we're talking about. And so I wanted to, you had a couple of things when we were discussing this yesterday that you had come across, and I would love for you to share those things now.
Yeah, so I love this segment because you're so right. We hear so much not so good things about the world, and there's so much hope, there's so much happening. So Um, I'm so blessed to have more than a couple, but there's two that I really want to highlight. People in my life who have done really amazing things. So the first one that I want to share about is Beth Love. She's the founder of an organization called Eat for the Earth. And Eat for the Earth, she had this inspiration, this deep-seated care for the world, and hearing about our climate woes, she really felt she needed to do something. And so she created a business, an organization, part of a nonprofit, that's focused on bringing plant-based, whole food, plant-based eating, making it more available to the general public, because when we do that, it affects the earth and agriculture in such a way that we don't need to grow food to feed the cattle that then feed us and create more methane and other, there's all kinds of water issues with that as well. So long story really short, what she did is she created this nonprofit, and with that she is doing programs where they go into communities, say connected to a local church or something like that, and people who have, at the beginning of the program, they do all kinds of health measurements, and they take a look at what is the what's their blood pressure markers, their blood sugar markers, in terms of diabetes type 2. And this program is only 10 days. Within 10 days of eating plant-based foods, these markers changed so dramatically that when she was applying for another grant, the grant people came back to her and said, you need to look at the results. This can't be true. This is not possible. And she said, no, we've got the pre's, the post. We have doctors that watch this process, who are on board, who are using it, with whom we're working together to use it with their population. That brings so much hope to me. Yeah, I think that that's really, truly beautiful.
That's awesome.
And I have another one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love good news.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the other one is another friend of mine, Julie Hazelwood, who has created this nonprofit called Roots and Routes. And what she wants to do is be this bridge between cultures. So while she is here at UCSC, Santa Cruz, California, and she's a assistant professor there, she connects youth from all over the world to help local communities in Ecuador create projects that support their program, their environment. And this is not, the white person coming in and saying this is how it needs to be done. No, they're working together, and it's the Awa and the Choco who come to her and say, these are the things that we're working on. These are the things that we need. How can you help us?
Mm-hmm.
And how can you collaborate with us? And they've just created this amazing documentary about the hope for water, because due to the palm industry, the palm oil industry, their whole water ecosystem has taken a dip, and they've gotten amazing film directors and people together to create this beautiful documentary. And so, like, wow, there's so much good that happens in the world, and these people, and these are just two of the ones that I know, are making just tremendous impact. I love that.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And by the way, palm oil, burning rainforests and stuff for that, and
Right.
as well as the ecological impact of the farming and the processing.
Yeah.
And stop buying no stir peanut butter, among other things, right? I mean, it's not good for you anyway, and also it's supporting an industry that is killing the lungs of the earth. From what I hear, I
read here and there.
I like to append absolutely everything I say with "from what I hear," because I don't know. I didn't do the studies, right? Okay. So what I wanted to talk about was to add to that was I've read the book, David Sinclair's book, and it had some interesting stuff in it. And what David Sinclair is a Harvard professor that heads the whole department that in Harvard that does research on aging. And so he has something that he calls the information theory of aging. And what they're doing is it's really kind of centered around this idea of cellular senescence. And cellular senescence is the process that happens when a cell stops doing its job. And when it stops doing its job, it should kill itself. It's old, it's not working properly, and there are mechanisms in place for it to do this. I think they call it apoptosis, and it literally commits suicide, and then the body scavenges it and breaks it down and reuses the stuff. There's a gene mutation that happens when we get older where the mechanism responsible for that no longer works, and so it just wanders around, or it just stays in place or whatever, but they call them zombie cells is the popular name for it. And they take up resources, they take up space, but they're not doing their job. And this is one of the primary mechanisms of aging. And so they've been looking for ways to interrupt that process in the lab, and they've come up with some really, really exciting, promising things. And so they keep, and most of it is in laboratory animals, and there's been some clinical trials in humans with some of the techniques that they've been using. But it's a really promising field and already yields some results. If you want to look up David Sinclair, the guy has tested with the biological age, and I can't speak to the specifics of what that means, but that's a popular idea now. Someone came up with a way to test your biological age. He's 53, he tested at 33.
Wow.
Yeah, and he looks, his skin is perfect, he looks young. His dad started some of his protocols when he was in his late 70s, and now he's in his 80s, and he was never that go kind of guy, and his life has turned around, and he's traveling internationally and biking and doing all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's super cool and super promising. But what one of the things that David Sinclair is trying to drive for is for society and governments and institutions, for the mechanisms that we have in place to recognize aging as a disease. Because aging is actually the mother of all disease. If you look at heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, diabetes, all of the risk factor, the number one risk factor for all of those by a long shot is age. So your risk of getting them goes up exponentially as you get older, right?
Makes sense.
And so it is the mother of all. So if we can stop or reverse or interrupt, slow down the mechanisms of aging, then we don't get these diseases until much later. And what they found was when they would do that in mice, they would live longer and they would live more healthy. And then they would die of the same diseases that the other mice were dying of. They would just die more quickly. So they were in better health for longer, and then they'd fall off the shelf. They would suffer for days instead of for months.
Wow.
Which is what we have now is, a consequence of our medical system and of the pharmaceutical industry and treating symptoms and not curing anything, and leaving people chronically ill. The result of what we're experiencing right now is that people might be living longer, but they are, they spend decades in decline.
Yeah.
And so they're torn down mentally, physically, emotionally, oftentimes. And unless they have an immensely strong spiritual practice, then, you're going to get torn down emotionally by that. And so, I guess one of the points is that it is unethical to keep people alive in a state of decay, which is what we're doing in our society with our systems. And really what we need to do is stop that practice and go back to the beginning, or go deeper into the diseases. And you don't get much deeper than the mother of all diseases, which is aging. So as we see this shift in our society and the way we approach aging and the importance we give to it, and if we can treat it like a disease, then we can actually have that kind of really, really significant improvement in the way our society ages.
Yeah. Well, it goes along with the idea of looking at prevention more, like building a healthcare system based on prevention versus curing the disease. So I know you're talking about aging as a disease. I guess I have an instant reaction towards that word disease, and that I'd like to look at it more like, okay, well, how can we prevent the aging process?
Absolutely.
Which is different.
Yeah, the word disease is got a lot of charge around it, and so those of us who happen to be getting older, everybody is, but we're in that age range where we're still young, and yet our parents are getting there, and I'm 54. Later on this year, I'll be able to get a senior discount at McDonald's.
Boop boop.
Get that cup of coffee, and it's as if I would set foot in a McDonald's. Let's be real. Yeah, it's very interesting. That is really kind of a political move to say, let's classify it as a disease so that we can get funding for research.
Yeah,
because his point is that the unbelievable majority of funding for medical and scientific medical research goes towards other things. And just a little drop in the bucket goes to actual aging research.
Yeah.
They don't want to do it because it's not classified right from the governmental perspective. And then of course the pharmaceutical industry is like, well, if we solve aging, then we'll lose a lot of our market.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And then the upshot of it is, if we're able to age better and live longer at the same time, then what we get is a population that is productive, healthy, and happy in that 50, 60, 70, 80 years old range. And wow, wouldn't it be amazing to have the wisdom of people who've really lived, along with their emotional and mental faculties completely intact, so they can contribute in a way that we desperately need as a society, because we act like children at the societal level. Our emotional maturity and spiritual maturity is around 8th grade in the United States.
I didn't know that there was actually an age related to it, but yep, I can imagine that.
According to Ken Wilber, that's roughly where we've evolved to.
Right.
So that's one of those.
Yeah, and in the Bible, and probably should move on shortly, but in the Bible, which I'm not super familiar with, so don't quote me at all, but they talk about ages that are so much higher, people living to 700, 800, and
Methuselah, 900 years old.
Right, and I remember that my teacher used to say, well, they had a different system and it's different than we have now, and just to make the age kind of more, slowing it down back to our age. But who knows, perhaps that was true, and they had a different relationship with their body, in their ecosystem, everything.
Interesting. That goes right along with that is in the Egyptian archaeology, they have the King's List, and the King's List does the same thing. You go way back to the earliest kings, they lived for hundreds of years. They reigned for hundreds of years. You see the same thing in the Mayan culture, in their literature that we've been able to decipher. Possibly that's a thing that was happening, and we've kind of got busted down, and now we need to rebuild, I guess. And science is certainly one avenue to do that. All right, maybe we should move on. We've got some ground to cover, and we're going to bounce over to the after party. Hopefully y'all are registered for the link, and you've got that, and it's on Zoom. We're going to bounce in about 10 minutes over to there. So, Marije, what I want to do now is what I call backing into your vocation. I like to talk about what you do, but in order to get there in a way that I think makes the most sense, I want to start with underneath what you do, how you show up in the world. You're offering your service is a core belief, and I'd like you to talk about what that is.
So I've been thinking about whether I was going to share this, because this is something that I haven't really talked about a lot. Besides the fact that my main core belief is I want to help people feel better. Period.
Okay.
But a few years ago, it's going to get a little woo-woo if you're okay with that.
Oh, on this show? Absolutely not. We don't do woo unless you have woo, and then let's do some woo. Okay.
All right. I'm going to bring it on. So a few years ago, I had a past life regression. And for people who are new to past life regression, it's basically a form of hypnosis where you go back to potential past lives. Now, I fully believe in reincarnation and fully experienced those past lives in my belief.
Yeah.
And what was most fascinating was not necessarily the regression itself and jumping from one life to another. What was really interesting was she surprised me at the end by asking me to go back to the very first time I incarnated on the earth. And I'm getting chills immediately. So I found myself on the earth as part of what I call one mind. I was no longer me. It's even difficult to talk about there was this experience of being connected with beings all over the universe and being able to see, hear, feel everything all at once. And so she asked me my name, and I said, I have no name. There's no I. We don't need names. And then she proceeded asking me more questions about my experience. It's even in this incarnation, it's really difficult to not talk about my experience. So I'm just going to use that.
For conversational convenience. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she asked me questions about, well, how did you live? Did you have houses? No, we lived on the land. We would just go to sleep on the land. We would walk around. There was no need to own anything because everything was for everyone. Well, weren't you afraid of animals, that they would kill you? No, because they are part of the one mind too, and there's offerings back and forth where animals would offer themselves up for the whole existence for everyone, and people, humanoid beings, would do the same. I tell you, that experience, and there was a lot more to it, but that experience of that one mind, I can still get to that sometimes if I pay attention. And what happens is things around me dissolve and there's an expansion, and that feeling of connectedness, it just feels so close. And so, long story short, my belief is that we are here to help the earth transcend. We're here to help humanity transcend, go up to a different vibration. Our current state of the earth and the way that we interact is pretty far away, and yet it's so close. My experience of that expansion is that there's just this veil, and it's right there. And in order for us to do that, we need to raise our vibration. Well, we come here on the earth with, in my belief, a purpose. And we have everything internally that we need in order to live our purpose, in order to raise that vibration of the earth. And yet, there's so much around us that restricts us, our beliefs, our societal systems, you name it, that sometimes makes it difficult to recognize, well, wait, who was I really, and what was I here to do? And so that then backs me into this whole belief of, I want to help people feel better, because we have so much of this going on that really holds us back often to do the things that we know are right. And human design for me is such an amazing tool to really quickly help people back in alignment. Like when I do a reading for someone, within, like a reading is 90 minutes, within that time it's just like there's that transformation that happens. And yeah, I can talk about this for hours, but it's just beautiful to watch that transformation and to know that there's a recognition of this is who I am and this is what I want to take forward. And then, okay, how do you do that? That's a different story, but just that instant, like, back in alignment, because that is going to raise the vibration of the planet. That's me.
That's beautiful. So how did you decide, were you just kind of led to human design as kind of a facilitating tool for this? Or how did you decide on that?
Yeah, that's my own experience. And maybe some of the people here already know this, but my experience, I was going through a pretty rough time in my life. I was going through my divorce. I had been a coach, so I had all kinds of tools that have been truly helpful. And as I was going through my divorce, I'd had a reading, and it gave me that, oh wow, this is like, I feel really like seen and recognized, and oh, I have something new to work with. And then I had to take care of my kids. You know, they were two young girls from 3 and 6. I had to make sure that there was food on the table, that they had health insurance, like the practical things. And I needed to find a job because my coaching practice collapsed, which is something that happens when you're doing personal development work and you're going through your own transformation. Your external changes too. So here I was looking for a full-time job and I couldn't find anything. And then I decided, okay, I'm at the end of my money. I'm having one last month of rent left, and then my wonderful friend offered, you can always come stay here and have peanut butter jelly sandwiches. So that was my like rock bottom, this is it. And suddenly I found a job because I had decided, okay, I'm going to give this human design stuff a try. I'm really going to use that information. So suddenly I found a job. Within a month, I made a 20% raise. Within 3 months, I made a promotion to lead the team, which also gave me a raise. I met a new man. Within 2 months, we were engaged, and we are now married 19 years. Sorry, I had to count that one. We've been together 19 years, married 18, we'll be 19 this year.
Yeah.
So that was such a confirmation of, you know, this stuff works. And I wanted to make sure that other people knew about it too. So that got my interest really just clicking deeply into human design, and I've been sharing this for over 20 years now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Okay. Looking at the time, what we're going to do is I'm going to do some housekeeping, and then we're going to jump over into the Zoom call.
Perfect.
All right. So the first thing that I want to say is the show happens, and it happens because of your support. And your support could look like a lot of things. It could be your time and attention, sharing with friends. It could be just listening to the episode and then going out and sharing some optimism, sharing some love with people. Mm-hmm. It is definitely following us on YouTube, which is YouTube/@ The Evolutionary Life. Subscribe there. That's very helpful. Of course, listening to the podcast, sharing, all of that good stuff. And then, of course, financial support is necessary. Boys got to eat, got to pay the bills. And so if it is within your means to do so, and you like what we're doing here, I would like you to consider becoming a contributing member of the Evolutionary. And that course, of course, gets you access to all of the after party recordings that we've ever done and any other cool exclusive stuff that we can get our hands on to post there. And at some point very soon, I'm going to add a section for the good news and fresh perspectives where we can capture those links and stories and get those in there as well, so that you will have that as a repository. Cool. Also, if you come across in your daily life, in your research, in your reading, whatever you're doing, good news, fresh perspectives, send them to me, please. Send them to me at on Instagram. You can DM me. I'm at The Evolutionary Life. And you can also pop on and DM me on Facebook if we're linked up there. Okay, upcoming guests that we have are Dina Justice, who is a phenomenal coach, Tiffany Baker, who is a death doula, a musician, an amazing cook. They lead death salons, and her and her husband Bryce, who was on the show last time, lead death salons where people talk about death in our society, and they lead amazing cacao ceremonies. She is a voiceover artist. She's one of my favorite human beings on the planet. Another amazing person is Jaden Hawkinson, who is a naturopath, acupuncturist, and a spiritual badass in the Santo Daime tradition. And also, I think he was fairly heavily involved in the Buddhist tradition as well, as was Tiffany Baker, by the way. And there is a rumor going around that the evolutionary is going to have a guest on that blows my mind that he would be on the show. His name is Metza. He is, if you know who Metza is, that's enough. If you don't know who Metza is, he is a French guy who went over and spent 18 years in the Amazon rainforest, I believe with the Shipibo people, became a real deal shaman, came back to North America, was adopted into the Lakota tribe. He's a sun dancer, Lakota sun dancer. If you know anything about how badass that is, then that's another, well, that'll do. You can look it up. I think he's a sun dancer for probably 10 years running. And so hopefully, I think he might actually be with us in a couple of weeks from today. Look for more information about that coming out from me on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the direct mails and stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to bounce over to the after party, wherein we are going to talk about Marije's Oracle deck, which is amazing. I mentioned it in the bio, but you really got to see this thing. It's interdisciplinary. It's got different traditions woven into it in a really deep and fascinating way. And we're going to talk about what that is and how she uses it. And she's also going to do a human design reading for some of you. Or if you don't show up ready for it, well, she's going to do mine. So. All right, Marije, thank you so much for being on the live stream.
Yay.
I appreciate you and love you very much.
you.
And we're going to bounce over. We'll see you guys in about 30 seconds over on the Zoom call.
See you in a moment.
Bye.